Hello, I will be discussing why so few countries impose high tax rates on rich people and luxury goods. I will also be discussing another market that governments should not tax for economic reasons. Firstly, we must consider the high elastic demand for luxury goods. For instance, private jets and luxury cars are not a necessity in life, so consumers are very sensitive to a rise in pricing. In other words, the consumers can say no to the prices of luxury goods and walk away from the market. Now that I explained what the demand side of luxury goods look like, we can discuss the potential outcome of a tax being put in place on these rich people or luxury goods. Let's introduce the idea of consumer and producer surplus. Consumer surplus is the difference between the maximum price that rich people are willing to pay for luxury goods and the price they actually pay. And the producer surplus is the difference between the amount sellers are paid for and the luxury goods and the amount they're willing to sell for these goods. We can look at the total surplus as a summation of producer and consumer surplus. Now, if a tax is brought into the mix, we have to consider the government's revenue to understand the situation better. And the total surplus now equates the summation of consumer and producer surplus as well as the revenue the government makes. Now, in this case, a tax would make the buyers and sellers worse off, but the government would benefit through the revenue, and that's the question being asked. Why doesn't the government tax these types of goods if they will make a revenue? For our case, due to the high elasticity of demand for luxury goods, if a tax was implemented, both the consumer and producer surplus would significantly decrease due to a decrease in quantity sold that results from a rise in prices. This deduction in producer and consumer surplus outweighs the revenue the government would gain. As a result, many countries do not tax these types of people or goods. In conclusion, an elastic demand significantly reduces the quantity bought and sold when prices rise. So, a tax put on goods with elastic demand will result in a large loss of deadweight that would not be balanced out by the revenue the government would pocket. In simpler terms, the cons outweigh the pros. Another simplistic example of a market that the government avoids placing taxes on would be any seasonal good during the off-season. For instance, winter tires for your car. If the government placed a tax on winter tires during summer, consumers would not buy this good during this time period. This is because winter tires aren't really a necessity during summers, and so consumers are kind of sensitive to these price changes. Again, this is due to the market having elastic demand during the off-seasons, and the government revenue would not balance out the total deadweight loss due to the significant loss in consumer and producer surplus. That's it. Thank you.